Okay, so with us today for this one, we've got the Athletics' Tim Spiers, who's covering Portugal for us at Euro 2024. And also we have David Novo, executive editor of Portuguese outlet Record as well. Right, let's start with last night. Portugal came from behind to beat Czech Republic 2-1 in their opening game of the tournament. David, how did you view that performance? Because it wasn't as clinical considering the attacking potency that Portugal have.
Well, hello guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, true. I thought it was going to be easier for Portugal, bearing in mind, of course, the Portuguese team, the talent that we have, the players that we have. But I think the 2-1 is a little bit. It doesn't show the game. Of course, Portugal was not. Yes, more corners, more shots on target, of course, but it was not that kind of match where a team is way better than the other and that misses like big chances. Um, Portugal was better than Czech Republic, of course, but at the same time, I thought, like I said, I thought it's going to be easier. Not, of course, we are talking about a big tournament, a European Championship. There are, well, I seem like a coach speaking, but there are no easy games. But it's true, it's different from the qualification, for example, where Portugal won the 10 matches. But at the end, it's the first match. I think that cannot say that we are sad. Of course not. We won. Portugal won. So it was important to start with the win. A lot of people say that the group is easy. Well, maybe it's not going to be that easy. Of course, now we have to see with Turkey, of course. But of course, Portugal is one of the favorites to win the tournament. I guess. Well, I don't know what you guys
Yeah.
think, but I think as a Portuguese, I think that a lot of people think the same as I do, but I think it was also important to see that okay, we have a great team, but it's a Euro, so we have to show it on the field.
Yeah, and also the reaction from the Portuguese press in general after that performance. Was it one of pragmatism or was it one of slight disappointment in Portugal from the Portuguese standpoint?
First of all, relief, of course, because that late goal of Francisco Conceição, of course, well in Portugal, the thing that was more, and I think also Roberto Martinez was asked about that at the press conference. Why didn't he change some players before? Because if you saw, of course, the winning goal with Pedro Neto, with the Wolverhampton player, with Francisco Conceição, players that entered before. One of the critics or one of the things that were mentioned, and Roberto Martinez was asked about that, was why he didn't change the players. Why didn't he put, for example, Pedro Neto earlier or even Francisco Conceição? Francisco is specific player, one versus one. He likes to take risks. And for example, Bernardo Silva looked really tired. Well, he played the 90 minutes, so I think maybe he couldn't have changed before. But of course, it's easier to speak at the end of the match. Um, but here in Portugal, I think that the main thing is well, the draw. Uh, of course, was not going to be a bad result, but of course a sense of relief or in happiness, of course, of this victory in the starting game.
Okay, well, Tim, I read your piece this morning, and I think you're more concerned with Roberto Martinez. The formation he played in particular, using what, five defenders, three fullbacks, no Paulinho,
I'm still not
no
sure, to be
Jota.
honest.
I know, but and I guess the bigger question is he at that stage where he's getting the best out of this birth of talent that Portugal have?
I mean, this was a theme in the warm-up games where he experimented a lot. He made a lot of. They played three games, which I don't think any of the other top nations did. But that was Martinez's preference to have an extra game, which sort of speaks to the fact that he doesn't know his best team or formation yet. They have tried 4-3-3 and 3-4-3, and they've got an unbelievably talented squad. The talents that weren't on the pitch last night, let alone the 5 subs that are used. The new golden boy, Joao Neves, didn't get on, or the old golden boy, Joao Felix, or Gonzalo Ramos, who scored a hat-trick at the World Cup, João Palhinha, who's probably the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League, or one of them. Ruben Neves is like the most talented player I've ever seen at Wolverhampton Wanderers in my life. These guys didn't even get on the pitch, which sort of speaks to the incredible squad depth. And it was a confused lineup, I thought, and it was a bit overcomplicated, and that's how it looked on the pitch. So João Cancelo sort of played this, and he was down as left wing back, but ended up sort of popping up in the 10 role and floating around in midfield. And Nuno Mendes was like a third centre back, which I don't think he's ever done for Portugal before. So to be trying new things in a first game isn't ideal, but they won the game. They have got a pretty easy group. To be fair to Martinez, he said before the match, look, we're not going to peak during the group stages. We'll need some time. So I think this is part of the reason why he was hired. His predecessor, Fernando Santos, was accused of being too predictable and too pragmatic, whereas Martinez is now the opposite. He's very attacking. He's experimenting a lot. He's trying new ideas. The problem is I think there's too many ideas and too many players knocking around. So that's his sort of huge task, really, because you don't tend to get teams win tournaments with lots of changes, different formations, different players, lots of subs. It would tend to be more of a consistent 11 and a core group of players playing the same formation that they're familiar with, and they know what the guy next to them is going to do, and they know what the guy in front of them is going to do. So he's not at that stage yet. I'm not saying they can't win the tournament, because they have the players to do it for sure, but there's definitely a lot of work to do.
And Tim, just can I say just the thing that I think that Tim spoke about? I think, of course, it was a little bit strange to have, for example, Nuno Mendes as a left centre back. Roberto Martinez said that Nuno Mendes already played there. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember, but of course I believe in Roberto Martinez. He's the coach, but it was strange here in Portugal. The thing is, if he wants to play with 3 centre backs, he has Gonçalo Inácio, who is a left-footed centre back, who plays with 3 centre backs at Sporting, and why Nuno Mendes, not Inácio from the starting lineup? It was Inácio, for example, that made the long pass to Pedro Neto, and then the goal of Francisco Conceição. So, yeah, of course, it was a little bit strange to see not the system. The system, he already played with the 3 centre backs, but the Nuno Mendes options was a little bit strange, yeah, but well, that's why he changed during the game.
Mm-hmm. I guess for me, from my perspective, I don't know if I've seen a Portuguese team this packed full of talent from the top to the middle to the back, even the keepers. I mean, you're looking at 3 really, really good keepers for Portugal. And Jose Mourinho recently said, Portugal could technically field 2 starting 11s with a birth of talent. David, from your perspective, I'm wondering how the Portuguese view Roberto Martinez, I guess as a Spanish coach as well, and how you feel he's working with this team.
Well, I think that first of all, the results are being good, so I think we cannot say that things are going bad. It's the contrary. Of course, we have that 10 matches, 10 wins. Of course. True, not the biggest teams in Europe. It's true. Our group was not that difficult. This group is not difficult also in the Euro. Of course, that defeat with Croatia, well, some people said, well, Portugal might be really good, but against bigger teams, maybe not. But there is a certain doubt regarding that, how Portugal will perform against, for example, France, Spain, or other teams. But so far, I think that Roberto Martinez is doing a really great job. He mentioned, I think, that Fernando Santos was really pragmatic. Like, it doesn't matter how Portugal plays, we need to win. Of course, everybody wants to win. But with these players, with this amount of quality that we have, Portugal has to play good football and to win. I know that it might be difficult to have that in the big tournament, but Portugal has to do that. I think it's with players like Felix, Ronaldo, Rafael Leão, all the players that we know, Portugal has the obligation to play good football. And he's trying to do that. We saw matches where Portugal played really good football, scored a lot of goals. So I think that, of course, his job so far is being terrific. I think it's a great coach. He had also a really good connection with the players, in spite of being in the national team like 1 year and a half. I know from players that I spoke with, he's really connected to the players. They like him a lot. He's changed also a little bit of the mentality of the Portuguese FA, showing a national team coach more close to the media. For example, participating in things in terms of media with the Portuguese FA that it was impossible to see Fernando Santos doing. It's a different mentality. I think that he brought, of course, some. It's different. It's different. And it's different for better, in my opinion. Of course, we can say that for example, if Portugal is going home after 3 matches, we are going to say that, well, he missed the chance, because, as you may recall, one of the critics and one of the things that people say about Roberto Martinez was in Belgium. He led the golden generation of Belgium. And at the big tournaments, of course, he has the 3rd place at the World Cup 2018, which is of course a great result. But he didn't won a big tournament with Belgium. Of course, he might end this contract with Portugal. He has contract until the World Cup. He might not won one tournament, or Portugal never won a World Cup, so it's not that easy. The Euros, I think it's a little bit different. Let's see what happens. But so far, I think that he's the right guy to lead Portugal.
Yeah, and Tim, there's some parallels there, I think, as David's talking with, I guess perhaps Gareth Southgate, really, like in the way Martinez talks a good game as well, right? Like he always backs his players, and even some of the stuff David's saying about working with the FA better, or getting the best out of his players on one-on-one level. It feels like that there is something there, but I guess, can we still say this is a coach that can deliver at the top level?
Yeah, I think the Belgium thing is pretty harsh on him, really. Finishing 3rd for a nation like Belgium and the population they've got, and there are France and Argentina and Brazil around as well, so it's not easy to just turn up and win your first ever World Cup. I really liked what he did with the team in terms of how they played, particularly in the early stages at Belgium. Obviously, we saw at the end they were a bit more counter-attacking, and the horrible performances at the World Cup in Qatar. But you're right, he does talk a very good game. He puts a positive spin on things, but he does it very intelligently and calmly and concisely. He gives you stats, he gives you sensible reasonings for what he's done. And yeah, you come out the press conference thinking, "Wow, yeah, he's right. What a great manager!" And but I do like him. He's very amiable. We saw when he's been a pundit on English TV as well. He's very watchable, and he's very nice to listen to. And I'm sure the players think that as well. He does have a tendency to start very well with nations or with clubs, which I think is something that does bode well for Portugal in this tournament. He does have sort of that new manager bounce. I think the players enjoy the freedom that he gives them and the attacking mentality. And yeah, he's very likable and puts, his arm around their shoulder. There is a pattern of a drop-off after that. We certainly saw at Everton, they finished 5th with 72 points, nearly qualified for the Champions League. And then there was a huge drop-off from 72 points to 47 in his next 2 seasons, and they finished in the bottom half twice. And when you do drop off like that and you're still smiling and putting a positive spin on everything, that's when you become ridiculed, which I think is what happened in England. And again, there was a big drop off with Belgium. But yeah, we're judging Portugal without him having had a proper test yet. I think the Czech Republic are the best team they've played in a competitive match. In terms of FIFA rankings, they're 36th. And that's the best team Portugal have played under Martinez in a competitive match. So we haven't seen him or this team severely tested yet, and I don't think we will until the knockout stage.
Yeah, David, I mean, we talk about this being a group that, I mean, naturally Portugal should win based on their ranking, based on the style of players. But I don't know if you watched Turkey versus Georgia yesterday. This is tournament football, and I'll be honest with you. The Turks look like they've got a solid team. They know how to play together. You saw the goals they play. You saw the goals they scored. Georgia, I mean, they're not going to be easy. They've got great attacking wise. They've got fantastic players who know how to play together. At this point in the tournament, what do you think you learned from last night's game?
Well, like I said, I think that we learned that it's not going to be easy. I think that those who are thinking, Portugal first of the group, 9 points, 3 wins. Let's rotate the players at the third match, for example. I think it's not going to happen. I think we should learn from yesterday that the other teams, in spite of not being so good as Portugal, not having the players that we have, I think that we need to understand that we need to show it on the field. I think it's that like a cliche that everybody speaks in football. It's no theory, it doesn't work in football. We have to show it on the field, but it's true. And Portugal had some problems with that. For example, in other tournaments where they had, well, some time ago, of course, but where the group was, well, it's going to be easier, piece of cake, and let's go ahead. And then we lost. And for example, the World Cup 2002, Japan and South Korea, Portuguese team was really good. I think, of course, not as good as this one, and we lost in the group stage, and they went back home. So, of course, I think Turkey is going to be a great match on Saturday. I think Turkey seemed a little bit better than Czech Republic, so we need to be really careful, and we need to play better, and we need to show that thing that I'm saying. We need to show that we are one of the best teams on the tournament, and we need to show it in every match, and we have players for that. If you change players, and team spoke and said, João Neves, João Felix, other players that didn't even play yesterday, they have to play, they have to deliver, they have to show that they are the big players that everybody speaks about, and they have to show it here at the big stage. We see Ronaldo. We are going to speak about Ronaldo, of course, but he also delivers, he delivers all the time, or almost in every tournament. But we need more players to show that, and we need to show it that we can win the Euros. Because when we won 2016, it was like I would not say a miracle, but nobody was expecting Portugal to win that Euro, even us in Portugal with that team, and we won. So we won with a team that it was not as strong as this one. So if we have a stronger team, in theory, and theory is what it is. We need, if you want to win it with the best team that we have from several years, we have to show it.
Yeah. Okay, well, you mentioned it, so why don't we go there? Let's talk about Ronaldo, CR7. I mean, look, I know it's funny going to Saudi Arabia. You'd like to think that perhaps, the press weren't as concerned with him in this tournament, but it seems like, fans are still wearing the shirt. Press still want to know what's going on. David, this is a player that's now scored 10 goals in qualifying, bringing Portugal into the Euros. You give us a sense of what it is like to have someone like that in the dressing room, how daunting and tricky it must be for coaches to handle that. Let's not forget what happened with Santos in the last World Cup. That made global news.
Yeah, true story. And I think that it was the situation that led after to leaving the national team. It was not just the shock, the thing that he had with Cristiano. Of course, the results were not that good, especially the last competitions. But of course, when you have a clash with the biggest star, I think the only way is to one of them to leave. And of course, it was not Ronaldo that was leaving; it was the coach. But I think now we see a different Ronaldo. I think that he's in. I don't know how can I explain, but he seems less selfish than before. I think that he's now more a team guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but we are used to see Ronaldo thinking about his goals, his records, his stats. I think now is different. I think now he's more thinking on the team. The image that I don't know if you guys saw yesterday when the referee made the final whistle and he grabs Francisco Conceição and started to celebrate. that's the captain, that's the team leader, and I think that now he's showing that he's more a team guy. He is still important for Portugal, but he knows that he has surrounding him a lot of good players who need them, who need him, who need his leadership, who need his experience, because he's the guy. He's the only guy that has 6 euros. So of course he is a legend. He represents everything that we have in the Portuguese football. He's a legend, an icon, and of course I think that. And I think he deserves, since this is going to be, of course, the his last Euro. I don't know about the World Cup. I don't know, but regarding the Euro, I think he deserves a proper farewell of a Euro, and I think the only way is to win it. And I think that he knows that to win a Euro, for example, he needs to focus on the team. He knows that maybe he's not going to play all the games. Imagine if Portugal is going to the final, 7 games. I think it's impossible to see Ronaldo playing the 90 minutes over the 7 games. Of course, he wants to, but I think in terms of physical conditions, I think it's not good. He's not going to be able to do that. And that was the problem, for example, 2 years ago. The problem in the game against South Korea, he wanted to stay on the pitch. Fernando Santos wanted to take him out, and then he said something. Well, I cannot pronunciate the words, of course, towards Fernando Santos, and that led, of course, that the next game where he stayed on the bench. Gonçalo Ramos scored 3 goals, so everything was a little bit strange for Ronaldo. To see Ronaldo in the bench, it's strange, but I think he has to know that it might happen, and might be good for him. It might be good for the team. So,
Tim, this is a player that scored 130 international goals for Portugal. It's fair to say he's got the firepower. But what about the Ronaldo you're seeing now? That Ronaldo that was on the pitch yesterday, Tim. What did you make of that Ronaldo?
David says last Euros, but Ronaldo did say a few months ago he wants to reach 250 Portugal caps, and I did some maths on this yesterday. He needs 43 more games to reach 250, and if you go back to his last 43, it goes to like August 2020. So he thinks he'll be playing until 2028, or that's what he's aiming to anyway. So you never know with this guy. I mean, there he was last night playing 94 minutes.
Yeah. True story, yeah, Tim. You're right. Yeah, I spoke with Cristiano in January in an interview. And he said, I don't know if he changed his mind since January, but he said that he's going to play for sure 1 more year, 2025. I think he has a contract with Al Nassr 1 more year. And then when he will be 40 next year, he will decide if he's going to play 1 more year. I think he will decide step by step, year by year, of course. That's why I said I believe that he can reach the World Cup in 2026. If he plays 1 more year, 2026 is the next year. So I think it's possible. 2028, it would be, he will be like what, 43? I don't know.
43, yeah.
It's but if there is someone that can do that, it's Cristiano.
I mean, like he's definitely playing better than he was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I was fairly impressed with him last night. For once, he wasn't the talking point, which was very interesting. There wasn't a single question asked about him in Martinez's post-match press conference.
True.
Which I think is a first.
Might be the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
But he's definitely still the story. I mean, the amount of people with his name on the back of their shirt, I would say 10 times more than any other player. Walking around Leipzig last night, it was ridiculous, and people were walking past each other in the street, not saying to like fellow Portugal fans. They weren't saying hello. They were just saying "Su," just as they sort of passed it. I was like, "What's going on here?" And then
that's how we communicate now. Yeah,
yeah. And even like the warm up. I mean, they were fixated on his every touch in the warm up. When his name was read out, it was like a goal had been scored. It was that loud. Like I've never really known that before in warm up. And then you saw when they were training the other day, there were 8,000 people turned up. mostly for him, right? I mean, and most of them tried to get on the pitch for a selfie. So it is ridiculous. But yeah, in terms of his performance, I mean, as you'd expect for a 39-year-old, he's not going to press or track back very much, and he had the fewest touches of any Portugal starter, but he also had the most shots, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to play on the last man. He's going to hover in good positions in the box. He's going to try and get on the end of crosses. If he doesn't score, I think you have to sort of,
score. He has to score.
Yeah. But if he doesn't, I think you have to question. Oh well, maybe Gonçalo Ramos or Diego Jota could be doing better. So I think he has to score to justify playing 94 minutes of every game. But he certainly didn't look kind of out of place yesterday to me. And he's very much the leader of this team, very much the figurehead of this team. You can see him encouraging his teammates, whipping up the crowd. And it couldn't be any more different from 2 years ago.
Still feels like that alpha. You look at that free kick, and there was no way Bruno Fernandes is not going to let Ronaldo take it, right?
He just pointed to his right hand side. He's like, Bruno, you stand there. I'm going to take this. Bruno couldn't even stand where he wanted. He's like, no, you go over there.
Yeah,
and also the kickoff. Did you see the kickoff when he's sprinting before the kickoff's even taking place?
I mean, it's the Ronaldo show in his head. But David, really interested to understand how the Portuguese view Ronaldo, excluding the dodgy statues you see in Madeira. Do they love him? Is he God? Like Pelé in Brazil, that kind of energy.
Yeah. I think, he's a legend. Tim said just a few examples of what Ronaldo represents. Of course, in Germany we have a lot of immigrants, so of course, like in France in the Euro 2016. A lot of immigrants also with the Portuguese that moved to France. Now those who moved to Germany or born in Germany with Portuguese parents, of course, to have Cristiano so close, that's why it's mad. It's mad, the training, the matches. And I think that it's Cristiano. I think that people don't, how can I say that? I think that people don't have a clue how he's going to be when he retires. Of course, he's going to retire. Of course, we have a generation of players who will replace. Of course, I think we're not going to have another Cristiano of this level, of a legend level. But we have good players, and I think, of course, we will survive without him playing. Of course, we have to. But the thing that Ruben Dias spoke about Ronaldo at the press conference, I think. He spoke about him. He represents that everything is possible. He represents to reach the higher level in football, and I think that the Portuguese, we spent so many years discussing if Ronaldo is better than Messi, if Messi is better than Ronaldo, if Ronaldo should have won more 3 or 4 Ballon d'Ors, and I think that we should have enjoyed a little bit more, and we have to enjoy it. Of course, he's not going to score 60 goals and every season. Well, he almost scored 60 goals, but of course, he's not the Ronaldo of Real Madrid. He's not the Ronaldo of United, but he's still a terrific player, a huge player, more than a player, of course, for what Tim said. He's an icon. He's a legend. He represents Portugal in the world. If you go somewhere, you say you are Portuguese, and I believe that the next guy, the person next to you, will say, "Yeah, Portuguese, Cristiano Ronaldo." It happens everywhere. So we have to enjoy it while it lasts, and that's it. He's Portuguese. He's ours. We have to enjoy it, and I think that. In the past, I think that we were sometimes unfair with him, or maybe we're just trying to take the best out of him, and maybe we expected that in every tournament we would win with him every tournament, or he will score in every match. It's not going to be possible, but I think that we have to enjoy it. And I think that we have enjoyed we have to be glad to have Cristiano with us with almost 40 years. So let's appreciate until the end.
Yeah, what you said there was really interesting, and I want to ask you both, and we'll start with you, Tim. In terms of whether this Portuguese team are stronger with or without Ronaldo. You think about the players they have at their disposal. I even think about the last World Cup, the quarterfinals, when he dropped Ronaldo and Ramos comes on, scores a hat trick against Switzerland 6-1, and you see the team play differently when he's not there. Is he better? Are Portugal better with or without him, Tim?
I mean, it's interesting that they've played 3 competitive games without him in their starting lineup since, like, including the World Cup, and they've scored 15 goals in those 3 games. Okay,
Yeah,
once was against, once against
9-0, yeah.
Luxembourg.
Yeah, yeah.
Once against Luxembourg, yeah, 9-0, and the other was the Switzerland game you mentioned, the 6-1. But it was the other one when they didn't score against Morocco and got knocked out of the World Cup, too early. That means that Ronaldo's still here, I think. I mean, it is interesting. Martinez did have the opportunity, was there for him if he wanted it and if he was allowed to make the decision to cut Ronaldo out of the national team, then he could have done, because when he took over, he's just recently joined the Saudi Pro League. He's been dropped at the previous World Cup. He's like 37, 38. Martinez could have moved on without him, if, like I said, if he was allowed to, because there's a lot more that comes with Ronaldo than just being a player and the finances that come in with it. But he's not only has he chose to stick with him, he's put him front and center, and he has scored goals, pretty much a goal a game for club and country since then. And I know the Saudi Pro League is not the best level, but if there was an 18-year-old Portugal kid who'd scored 10 in qualifying and scored 60 and 60 in Saudi Arabia, I think we'd be like, yeah, he probably deserves a call up, right? So when you add all the things that come with that. But yeah, it is interesting, Ayo. Like, I remember watching Spurs with Kane and after Kane, and as amazing as Kane is, they do naturally, Spurs would naturally sort of pass to him automatically. Even Kane would sort of demand the ball.
It happens the same in Portuguese team, yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
spoke,
then
yeah.
and then when Kane wasn't there, they looked free. They looked like the individual players around him looked better. It's not to say that the team is better off without a player of that greatness or stature, but it definitely would free up others around him. But it's a really interesting question. But he's going to start pretty much every game, so it's probably a move.
That is the difficult question to yeah. I think that Portugal is better with Cristiano, but can survive without Cristiano. I think that's the thing, and that thing that Tim said in the past. For example, if a teammate shot that goal and didn't make the cross to Ronaldo, didn't pass to Ronaldo, and we saw Ronaldo shouting at the teammate or making gestures like pass me the ball, and now it's different. I saw, for example, yesterday players trying to shot and trying to do other things that than just trying to pass the ball to Ronaldo, because there are more players. And of course, that's why I'm saying that he's more a team guy. In the last years, from the World Cup until now, I think he's more a team guy. He understands that every player needs to take the decisions and need to well, sometimes they have to shot at goal. Of course, they are not going always to pass the ball to him. And but bottom line is, Portugal, I think, should play with Ronaldo, but have to learn how to play without Ronaldo.
Right. Finally, before we go, from what you've both seen from the first round of matches, do Portugal deserve to be seen as one of the favourites to win this tournament? And also, I guess from a Martinez perspective, what is the minimum requirement for him, David, for these Euros? And Tim, please come in after David as well.
The least, well, I think that semifinals, at least. I think that with again, the players that we have, the tradition that we have in the European Championships, Portugal always have better performances and better results at the Euros than in the World Cups. We have of course, we won 2016. We have the semifinals, I think 2012. We have other performances in the Euros. So I think that with this generation, with these players, I think at least semifinals, at least to say that it was good. Quarterfinals seem a little bit small for this team, in my opinion.
I think with with the players they've got, you can say I think they're in the sort of top 3 most talented nations. It's not the best draw. I mean, if they get through to second round, they'll play a third place team, and then in the quarters, they may be looking at, like, I don't know, the Netherlands if they finish second in their group, and then the semi would be Germany or Spain or kind of Italy. So that's going to be the absolute litmus test of this team. I can't wait to see how they get on, to be honest. Like I said, they've not had a sort of a proper test yet against a top nation. But when you look at the players he could bring off the bench yesterday, the players he didn't bring off the bench, they can dig their way out of any hole. The key is going to be the defense, I think, and whether they play as a team. When I talk about how they're in the top 3 nations, it's in terms of the list of individuals and just how ridiculously talented and well stocked they are in every single position. If he can fashion an 11 with similar coherent style of play and tactics, and a consistent team, then yeah, they can definitely win it. Martinez hasn't shown he can do that yet, but it doesn't mean he can't.
Okay, let's leave it there. Tim, David, thanks so much for your time. You can also go to the Totally Football podcast for reaction to all today's games at the Euros, and also our daily football briefing show for a bite-sized wrap-up in the morning. And also we'll be back tomorrow for a deep dive into one of the day's biggest stories. Thanks for listening. If you want to watch more episodes of the show, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be joined by the likes of David Ornstein, Matt Slater, Adam Crafton, Carl Anker, and plenty more through the season. If you'd like to listen to the episodes in full in audio form, search The Athletic FC wherever you get your podcasts from.